Dr. King said that poverty is built into the very structure of society. And the question wants to know, what do you think he meant by that, and is it so? And the second questioner asks, how do you respond to people who seem to justify poverty and excuse the failure of government to really address poverty by quoting Jesus, "The poor you will always have with you"?
Well, that's an easy one. It was read in Christian churches that use lectionaries, I think, last week, right? Disciples are all gathered. They got really big things in their mind. Jesus is going to die in a few days. A woman comes in and puts expensive ointment on him, oiling, and somebody says, she shouldn't do that. I'd like the money myself. And Jesus says, this is a beautiful thing. The poor you'll always have with. That's an observation. That's not a command. Be sure you always have poor with you. They're there. And I suppose, I have my own view of the brokenness of history. Probably there always will be poor. It's just, you can't picture a world in which this is not, politics is not utopian. You lessen, you improve things. But certainly the biblical justification not to do something about the poor would be impossible to find. How you do it, that's a matter of politics. These are, we should constitute a little college here, and let's go in different people every week and just have these questions, because I'm going crazy thinking of those 30 you got lying there that we'll never find out about. Fun. Okay.
And poverty is a social problem. I mean, with the people who say, well, you know, government should get out of the business of addressing poverty, because then we will have more money and we'll write out checks and we'll help poor people. Well, I mean, that's what government stepped in the 1930s, because churches couldn't and weren't able to do that. If you think the churches are able to do it now, that's one thing. But the whole concept that the way we want people to thrive is by, we'll give them food, leftover food or whatever. Thanksgiving, people get to eat a lot because people are very generous to food shelves then. You know, you could do that, and we can write out checks to people to help them with that way. That's a really lousy way to run a society. I thought the thing you want to do is make sure people have jobs that pay a living wage, that have a chance to have decent housing. That's the way you build a society. And if we want to recognize the fact that, I mean, the Poverty Commission, when we were taking tours around the state, it's amazing how one problem we might be able to fix. But a lot of poor folks have 10 or 20 problems tripping on top of each other. And frankly, we learned a lot about how our governmental system traps people in poverty. You've got to spend down your money before you get health care. You've got to spend down your money before you get help. You can't have enough money, and then you try and start saving money so you can get your own place and you can get out of temporary housing. We take it away from you. We don't give you a chance to do it. Government poverty is very much a social problem, and our social system sets it up to do that. And I don't believe you could ever end poverty so nobody's ever going to be poor. People will fall into poverty. Your house burns down today, you're homeless. But that doesn't mean we can't get you back on your feet and self-sufficient as much as possible, as soon as possible. We could do that as a society. Maybe we couldn't have done it 500 years ago. There weren't the resources. But we got the know-how. We put a person on the moon 40 years ago. We could do this thing.